Earlier, I spoke with former Deputy Director of the FBI, Timothy Murphy, about the implications of the Paris attacks at home and abroad.
So I think today in the United States, they are safe. But I think it's the same conversation we had after 9/11 and in the last 14 years is people need to be vigilant. They need to be aware of their surroundings. They need to say something when they see something that's out of the ordinary. Just like DHS says, see something, say something. That's what needs to happen. But day in and day out in this country, we should be not changing our behavior. We have the right mechanisms in place to keep people safe, and you're probably going to see that around the country. You're going to see stepped up security at a lot of these venues, and a lot of more intelligence gathered, a lot of more intelligence sharing anytime something happens like this around the world. We can do this today in the United States. My concern is going forward, what are we going to do? Because we've seen a drastic change in ISIS strategy. And attacking now in Western countries, in civilians, if you look what happened with the Russian aircraft, and now you look what happened in Paris, we need to change our tactics. We've seen this story before. Those of us that have been in this fight after 9/11 understand what we saw before 9/11 and understand what we had to face at 9/11. And what I'm worried about is, are we taking this as serious as it is?
In what way would you advise the nation's leaders to change strategy?
I think we've made I think there's been a miscalculation. Is we're treating ISIS as a state. It is not a state. It's a terrorist organization, and the tactics in diplomatic actions and military actions that you would take against a state and intelligence gathering actions are somewhat different than you would do and take against a terrorist organization. So we need to change our tactics both abroad and take the fight to them in a stronger way, while shoring up some of the things that we're doing here in the United States and with our partners around the world.
So the fact that we are told that intelligence authorities were not hearing chatter about the Paris attack before it happened, what does that tell you about the way ISIS is planning to carry out a coordinated, complex attack?
We've heard a lot about, the encryption debate, and Director Comey of the FBI has really raised that to a national and international discussion about encryption. But I would yet to make judgment on how this was actually carried out. What's dangerous, and more dangerous than ever, is if our governments find out during this investigation that this wasn't, if you will, core ISIS through a command and control center, planned and organized and carried out, and it was a local 8 individual subjects or more that got together and carried this out on their own because they were inspired to do this type of activity, and that's kind of the ISIS model with their propaganda. Then we have a big problem on our hand. It's much harder for law enforcement and intelligence agencies to address this problem when there is no command and control that we can go after and hear that chatter. So they may have done all this locally, planned it locally, organized, armed themselves locally, and carried it out locally, and there may only have been a communication there on the ground when they were carrying this out.
The fact that they have mastered social media, the fact that they use social media that is encrypted and that so far intelligence experts can't crack, the fact that they're using apps that are readily available that are intended to keep private communication from prying government eyes, all of those advances in technology help hide in plain sight.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. If you asked one of the biggest challenges that law enforcement intelligence agencies have had over the last few years, it is the proliferation of those encrypted communication devices, communication software, the hardware devices that are full disk encryption. There's no doubt they can have these communications, and there's limited, if not at all, sometimes visibility into their communications. And it's much more difficult for these organizations to get insight. You almost have to go back to a lot of human intelligence, what they call HUMINT. So you are going blind on some of your signals intelligence, yes. And so yes, they can hide in plain sight.
After 9/11, we talked a lot about how American intelligence agencies needed to coordinate and put these puzzle pieces together. Is that now essential on a global scale?
It is essential on a global scale. It radically changed through a complete transformation here in this country. But I would say at the same time, the United States, their UK partners, the French partners, and around the world, Western countries, and countries in the Middle East, there's a lot of cooperation on the intelligence. And if you look back over previous attack, you'll see a lot of sharing that was able to disrupt a number of attacks. You know, I would be concerned in this country. You're seeing what's happened overseas. You're seeing the attacks on Western interests. You have the Director Comey of the FBI stating we have open cases in this country in every state that are connected in some form or fashion to ISIS. We have our own foreign fighter travelers. That's what you're going to see in France. You're going to see foreign fighters. You're going to see maybe they're reporting, like you mentioned, a refugee that came in. You're going to see fighters that went over there and came back. It is publicly even said, I think there's about 1,200 foreign fighters from France itself. The United States, it's been estimated, I think Director Comey's gone out and said it's up towards of 250. You know, how do you watch all these individuals? Where do you know, where are they at? How are you looking into their communication, especially if they're encrypted? A lot of big questions to answer here, and a lot of work needs to be done.
Well, do our leaders have answers to those questions?
No, I think the answers are there. We've seen this play out. I mentioned it earlier. We've seen this play out before. This has got to be a wake-up call to actually take a step up, to put the resources required to figure this out. Yes, we can figure it out. We always end up figuring it out. But what I'm worried about is we're waiting too long. This has got to be the wake-up call for us to step up the action, no different than we did after 9/11. This is a terrorist organization, and we need to go after them.
Tim Murphy, thank you so much for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.